There's a strange quietness that comes after you stop trying. It's not the silence of an empty inbox, but the silence inside your own body. The frantic energy that used to check the phone, that reread old messages, that constructed future conversations in your mind. It has finally settled. For a while, your availability was a constant, a low hum in the background of his life. You were the one who filled the spaces, who answered the late-night text, who offered understanding when he offered ambiguity. And then, one day, you stopped. It wasn't a loud declaration. There was no dramatic exit. It was a quiet, internal turning away. A decision made not to punish him, but to save yourself. You simply stopped being the first to reach out. You stopped being the easy, convenient, 24/7 source of validation. You became unavailable. And in this new quiet, a new anxiety is born. It's no longer the hot, sharp pain of waiting for a reply. It's a colder, more profound question. Does this silence even register in his world? When a woman who was always there is suddenly not, what happens in the space she leaves behind? You tell yourself it doesn't matter. You tell yourself this was for you. But a part of you, the part that is still human and still hurting, cannot help but wonder what is happening on the other side of that silence. This isn't about playing a game. This is about understanding a fundamental psychological dynamic that most of us are never taught. It's a dynamic that Carl Jung's work illuminates with breathtaking clarity. What happens to a man when the woman who was a constant presence in his life withdraws her energy is not a simple story of absence makes the heart grow fonder. It is a deep, often chaotic, and profoundly unconscious process. It is the story of a projection shattering, and what he does next has almost nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the ghost you leave behind in his psyche. To understand his reaction, or his lack of reaction, we must first accept a difficult truth. For a time, he may not have been in a relationship with you. He was in a relationship with an image that he projected onto you. You were the screen, the canvas, upon which he painted a figure from his own inner world. You were convenient, you were kind, you were receptive, and so the projection stuck. You became the living embodiment of a part of his own soul that he could not integrate. This is not to say he felt nothing. The feelings can be intensely real, but they are feelings for the image, not necessarily for the complex, real, three-dimensional woman who holds the screen. When you were available, the screen was always lit. The movie of his inner world was playing, and you were its star. He could interact with this image whenever his ego felt a little lonely, a little bored, or a little insecure. You were a reliable comfort, a place he could go to feel seen, understood, or desired, without having to do the hard work of actual intimacy. When you withdraw, you do something terrifying. You turn off the projector. You take the screen away. The movie stops. And for the first time, he is left alone in the dark, not with your absence, but with the glaring, uncomfortable presence of his own inner image, now homeless and demanding. He is left with the ghost. In Jungian psychology, this inner image in a man's psyche is called the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man. She is an archetype, an ancient, inherited pattern of what woman is. She is the muse, the siren, the soul guide, the damsel in distress, the wise woman. Every man has an anima, shaped by his mother, by his culture, and by the collective unconscious. And most men, until they have done significant inner work, do not know their anima. Instead, they meet her through projection. They cast her onto a real woman in the outer world. When a man is captivated by a woman in a way that feels almost magical, obsessive, or fated, it is often the work of anima projection. He sees in her not just her qualities, but the qualities of his own soul. He is not falling in love with her, but with a missing part of himself that she appears to hold. While you were available, you were carrying his anima. Perhaps he saw you as the nurturing, endlessly patient mother figure. Perhaps you were the exciting, elusive pixie who made his life feel more alive. Perhaps you were the wounded soul he needed to rescue to feel like a hero. Whatever the image was, your availability made you the perfect candidate. You kept showing up for the role. The moment you become unavailable, you break the contract. You are no longer playing the part. The man's ego, his conscious sense of self, might react in several predictable ways. The first and most common reaction is dismissal. His ego, which prides itself on being in control and unaffected, will tell him, "I don't care. It doesn't matter. There are other women." This is a defense mechanism. The ego cannot bear to admit that its source of unconscious comfort has been unplugged. To admit that your absence matters would be to admit dependency, to admit that he was not as self-sufficient as he believed. So, he acts as if nothing has happened. He might even flaunt a new connection, not because he has moved on, but to prove to himself and to you that the screen is easily replaceable. But this is only the surface story. Underneath the ego's bravado, in the realm of the unconscious, a storm is brewing. The anima, the projected image, has been disturbed. She is no longer anchored to a person in the real world. She floats freely in his psyche, and this is deeply unsettling. It can manifest as a low-grade irritability he can't explain, a sudden feeling of emptiness or meaninglessness in his daily life. The world that seemed full of color when you were in it now seems gray and flat. He won't consciously connect this feeling to you. His ego will forbid it. He will blame his job, his friends, the weather. He will say he's just tired. But what he is experiencing is the withdrawal of a projection. He is missing the drug of having his inner world validated by an outer person. This is where the dynamic gets more complex. If his ego's defenses are not strong enough, the disturbed anima will begin to make her presence known more forcefully. This doesn't usually look like a romantic epiphany where he realizes he loves you. It often looks like confusion, anger, or obsession. He might start to think about you at odd times. Your face will pop into his mind when he's driving, or just before he falls asleep. He might find himself checking your social media, not to connect, but to gather information, to see if the screen is still there, even if it's showing a different movie. He might feel a strange sense of anger towards you. How dare you withdraw? How dare you disrupt the comfortable arrangement? This anger is not the anger of a man who misses his partner. It is the anger of an ego that has lost control of its environment. You were a predictable part of his world, and now you are not. You have revealed a vulnerability in him that he did not want to see. The anger is a defense against the feeling of powerlessness. He is angry at the mirror for no longer showing him the reflection he wants. The deeper truth, the one that is so hard to hold on to when you are the one in silence, is that this entire process is about him. It is his inner drama playing out. Your withdrawal simply pulled the curtain back. He is not wrestling with his love for you. He is wrestling with his own unintegrated feminine side. He is being haunted by his own soul. Let's imagine this visually. Think of your availability as a physical space. A room in his psychological house that was always open, always warm, always lit. He could walk in whenever he wanted, take what he needed. A sense of being desired, a moment of comfort, an ego boost, and then leave, closing the door behind him, knowing the room would be exactly the same when he returned. He never had to tend to the room, bring furniture, or invest in its upkeep. Your emotional labor did all of that for him. When you become unavailable, you lock the door, and you turn off the light. At first, he might not even notice. He walks down the hall of his life, busy with other things. But eventually, out of habit or need, he reaches for the doorknob, and it doesn't turn. He pushes. The door is solid. He peeks through the keyhole, but it's dark. His first reaction is confusion, then irritation. Why is this door locked? His ego wants to kick the door down, or better yet, pretend it never wanted to go into that room anyway. It was a boring room, it says. I have better rooms to be in. But the unconscious knows what was in that room. The anima lived there. So, at night, when the rest of the house is quiet, he hears noises from behind the locked door. He feels a draft. The absence of the room becomes a presence. The silence you created becomes loud. He is not missing you, the person. He is being confronted by the locked door. The door becomes a symbol of everything he cannot access in himself. This is the critical turning point, not for him, but for you. The temptation is to believe that his rattling of the doorknob is a sign that he loves you and wants you back. We are conditioned to see pursuit as proof of value. But from a Jungian perspective, his focus on the locked door is often just a desire to restore the old, comfortable dynamic. He wants the room to be open again, so he can resume his casual visits. He doesn't want to move into the room, live there, and build a life with the person who tends it. He just wants access. If he does reach out at this stage, his communication will often be cloaked in ego. It won't be a vulnerable, "I miss you, I was wrong." It will be a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Or a provocative, "Saw you were out, looked like fun." Or even a slightly accusatory, "You've been quiet." These are all attempts to test the lock. He is putting a key in the door to see if you will open it from the inside. He is checking if your unavailability was just a mood, a temporary state, or if the lock is permanent. If you respond with your old availability, if you swing the door wide open and say, "Oh, I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about you," the game is over. The dynamic immediately resets. He has confirmed that he still has access. The tension is resolved for him. The anima is pacified, and he will, most likely, retreat again, secure in the knowledge that the room is still his for the taking whenever he pleases. You will have taught him that your absence is simply a tactic to get his attention, not a true shift in your own center of gravity. But what if you don't open the door? What if, when he tests the lock, you simply let him hear the silence? What if your response is calm, polite, but not available? You don't offer a long explanation. You don't pour out your stored-up emotions. You just are, elsewhere. You are busy living in the other rooms of your own house. This is the moment the dynamic truly begins to lose its power over you and creates a genuine crisis for him. His ego's simple test has failed. The key didn't work. Now he is forced into a real confrontation, not with you, but with the fact of the locked door. He has two choices. The first and most common choice is to walk away. The effort of trying to understand the lock, find a new key, or heaven forbid, build his own room, is too much work. His ego cannot handle the rejection. His need for comfort will drive him to find another woman, another screen, another open door where he can project his anima without resistance. And from your perspective, this will feel like the ultimate confirmation of your worst fear. You didn't matter. He moved on so easily. But you must see this for what it is. He did not choose another woman over you. He chose an easy projection over the hard work of self-reflection. He chose a screen over a soul. His departure is not a measure of your worth. It is a measure of his own psychological immaturity. He is running from the ghost in his own machine, and he has found someone else to help him pretend it isn't there. However, there is a second, much rarer path. If the man has some capacity for introspection, if the disturbance in his psyche is profound enough, your unavailability can trigger the beginning of a genuine psychological process. The locked door forces him to ask, "What was in that room that I needed so badly?" He is forced to look at the projection he was casting. He starts to differentiate between the image he had of you and the real person you might be. He begins to feel the anima, not as a magical figure outside of himself, but as a force within him. He might feel a sense of longing, but it's different now. It's not just a need for an ego boost. It's a deeper, more melancholic sense of having lost something essential. This is the beginning of him taking his projection back. He is starting to own the fact that the magic and the meaning he saw in you were actually reflections of his own soul. This process is painful and disorienting for him. It can feel like a depression. The world loses its enchantment because he can no longer naively project that enchantment onto others. He has to find it within himself. In this stage, he might truly miss you. Not the convenient you, not the screen, but the person who, by leaving, forced him to meet himself. If he reaches out from this place, the communication will feel entirely different. It will be humbled. It will be vulnerable. It might be clumsy. He might say something like, "I've been thinking a lot, and I realize I took you for granted." Or, "I don't know what's going on with me, but my life feels empty since you're not in it." There is an admission of his own state, rather than an attempt to manipulate yours. He is not just rattling the doorknob. He is knocking and waiting to be invited in, acknowledging that it is your door. But here is the most important part of this entire journey for the woman. Your goal is not to get him to this second path. Your goal is not to wait by the door, listening for his footsteps, hoping he chooses vulnerability over ego. To do so is to remain trapped in the same dynamic, just in a more sophisticated way. You are still making your emotional state dependent on his actions. Your true liberation comes from turning your attention away from his locked door drama and focusing on your own house. While he is wrestling with his projections, you must ask yourself, why was I willing to be a screen for so long? What in me was satisfied by being the ever-available, ever-understanding one? This is where you must confront your own shadow. Perhaps you have a good girl persona, a mask you wear that says, I am kind, I am patient, I am low maintenance. You get your sense of worth from being needed, from being the one who can handle his ambiguity. Your persona feels virtuous, but in your shadow, the part of you that you repress, lives resentment, exhaustion, and the feeling of being unseen. Your shadow knows you have been abandoning yourself. By becoming unavailable, you have, perhaps for the first time, allowed your shadow to have a voice. You have honored the part of you that said, enough. This is an act of individuation, the Jungian term for becoming a whole, integrated individual. You are taking back your own projections. Perhaps you projected onto him the idea of the one who could finally see me, or the one who would complete me. When you stop being available, you are forced to see that you must be the one to see yourself. You must be the one to complete yourself. If this reflection names something you have never been able to say out loud, write a single sentence for yourself in a private journal. A sentence that begins with, I am no longer available for, and finish it with the truth. I am no longer available for ambiguity. I am no longer available for relationships where I do all the emotional work. I am no longer available to be a screen for someone else's fantasy. This is not for him, this is for you. It is the act of drawing a boundary, not on a piece of paper, but in your own soul. The real work is to use this period of silence not to watch him, but to furnish your own inner rooms. What passions did you set aside because you were always waiting for his call? What friendships did you neglect because your emotional energy was consumed by him? What part of your own soul, your own inner voice, have you been ignoring? Your unavailability to him must become your availability to yourself. This is why this path is so different from playing games. A woman playing a game is constantly peeking out the window, checking for his reaction. Her unavailability is a performance. She is still in the room, just with the lights off, waiting. A woman who is truly reclaiming herself has left the room entirely. She is in the garden, in the library, in the studio. She is busy with the project of her own life. Whether he comes back or not is no longer the central question. The central question is, who am I becoming in this newfound space? If he never comes back, or if he chooses the easier path of finding a new screen, it will hurt. But the pain will be different. It will be the clean pain of loss, not the toxic, jagged pain of self-abandonment. You will grieve the connection, but you will not lose yourself, because you have finally found yourself. You will stand on a foundation of self-worth that is not dependent on his validation. And if he does come back, having done the hard work of retracting his projection, he will not find the same woman waiting for him. He will not find the convenient, ever-available screen. He will not find the open door to a room he can use at his leisure. He will find a whole house, a house with its own rules, its own light, its own life. He will find a woman who is sovereign over her own space. He will find a real person, not an image. And a relationship with a real person is infinitely more terrifying and infinitely more rewarding than a relationship with a projection. It requires presence, accountability, and true intimacy. He will have to show up as a real person too, not as the hero or the cool, detached man. He will have to be vulnerable. This is the ultimate test. Many men, even those who take the second path, will falter here. The reality of a relationship with a whole, self-possessed woman can be too much for an ego that is used to being in control. He may retreat again, this time for good, but you will be okay, because the point was never to get him back. The point was to get you back. The process was the goal. Your withdrawal was not a strategy to change him. It was a sacred act of returning to yourself. You stopped being available to him so that you could finally, fully, be available to the life that is waiting for you. The silence on the other end of the line is no longer a question about your worth. It is the sound of your own freedom. My silence is not a game. It is my return to myself. And this return is not just a mental decision. It is a profound shift that happens first in the body. For months, perhaps years, your body has been a vessel for anxiety. It learned to hold the tension of waiting. Think of the knot in your stomach when you sent a vulnerable text, the shallow breath you took as you saw he was online but not replying, the way your shoulders tensed in anticipation of a call that might not come. This is body memory. Your nervous system was conditioned to a state of high alert, a low-grade fight-or-flight response, constantly scanning the environment for signs of his approval or disapproval. When you truly become unavailable, the first miracle is not in his response, but in your own physiology. One day, you will notice you are breathing deeper. You will feel the tension in your shoulders begin to release, not because you are forcing it, but because the threat is gone. The threat was never his leaving. The threat was you abandoning yourself. As you return to yourself, your body returns to a state of homeostasis. You feel a grounding in your own feet. You might sleep more deeply. Food might taste richer. This is not a coincidence. You have recalled your life force from an external object, him, and brought it back home, into your own cells. Your body, which was a tense outpost on the border of his world, is finally becoming your own peaceful territory again. While you are grounding, he is becoming unmoored. The disturbance of the anima projection is chaotic enough, but now we must look at what else is activated: his shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything in ourselves that we find unacceptable and therefore repress into the unconscious. For many men, the shadow contains feelings of neediness, dependency, vulnerability, and a fear of being insignificant. Your constant availability was a powerful defense against his shadow. As long as you were there, proving his desirability and importance, he never had to face his own inner fear that he might be neither. He could maintain a persona of being cool, independent, and in control. Your presence was the drug that kept his shadow sedated. Your absence is like a forced sobriety. The shadow begins to stir. The vague irritability he feels isn't just the homeless anima, it's the voice of his repressed neediness crying out. The anger he feels towards you is his ego's rage at the mirror you have become. By leaving, you are wordlessly showing him the part of himself he despises, the part that is dependent on a woman's attention for its sense of self-worth. He will project this onto you, calling you manipulative or cruel, because it is less painful than admitting, "Her absence reveals a terrifying emptiness inside of me." He is not just haunted by the ghost of you, he is haunted by the ghost of his own rejected self. As you continue on this path, you will begin to notice the concrete inner signs of your own transformation. These are small, quiet moments of grace. You will be listening to a song on the radio, a song that used to make you ache with longing for him, and you will realize you were just listening to the music. The song is no longer a soundtrack to your pain, it is just a song. You will be getting ready to go out with friends and notice the absence of a secondary motive. You are not secretly hoping he will see a picture of you online and feel a pang of regret. You are simply going out to enjoy your friends. You will stop mentally rehearsing conversations with him. That inner theater where you practiced what you would say, how you would say it, anticipating his every possible response. It goes dark. The energy you spent on that production is now free. You might find yourself using it to learn a new skill, to read a book with unbroken concentration, or simply to sit in silence and feel peace instead of anxiety. These are the real markers of freedom. They are not loud victories, but the quiet, steady accumulation of moments in which you belong wholly to yourself. Now, let's return to that second, rarer path. The path where he does the work and comes back, humbled and changed. This is where you will face the final and most subtle, practical test. It is the test of discernment. Imagine the scene. After a long period of silence, he reaches out. He says the words you once longed to hear. "I was wrong. I miss you." The old you, the one who lived in the unlit room waiting, would have swung the door open with relief. But the new you, the woman who owns the whole house, remains calm. You feel the words, you acknowledge their weight, but you do not let them sweep you away. This is where you administer the test. And the test is a single, clarifying question. When he says, "I miss you," you gently and calmly ask, "What specifically do you miss?" Pay close attention to his answer. It will tell you everything you need to know. If he is still trapped in the projection, he will describe his own feelings. He will say, "I miss how you made me feel. I miss the connection we had. I miss having someone to talk to." Listen carefully. These are all statements about his experience. You were the source of a good feeling for him. You were the screen that played a movie he enjoyed. He is not seeing you. He is seeing the service you provided to his ego. If you press him, he may become defensive or frustrated, unable to articulate anything beyond his own sense of loss. This is a failed test. He is knocking on the door because he wants the old arrangement back. But if he has truly done the work of retracting his projection, his answer will be different. He will describe you. He will say, "I miss the way you laugh at your own jokes. I miss your perspective on things, the way you see the world. I miss that time we talked about a specific topic, and I learned something new. I miss your kindness to the waiter that day." Do you see the difference? He is no longer talking about how you made him feel. He is talking about who you are. He has spent the time in your absence differentiating the image from the person. He has started to see you not as a function in his life, but as a separate, sovereign individual, with qualities and a consciousness of your own. This is the beginning of true sight. This is a past test. It doesn't mean you must take him back, but it means the conversation is happening on a new level. It is happening between two real people. And yet, the most beautiful part of this journey is realizing that you no longer need him to pass the test. Your peace is not contingent on his answer. Your wholeness does not depend on him finally seeing you. You have already done the work of seeing yourself. The test is not for your validation. It is for your information. It is data that helps you decide who you allow into the beautiful, well-lit house you have so lovingly restored. This brings us to a soft closing, a final understanding. The silence you created was not a void, but a sacred space. It was a chrysalis. While he wrestled with ghosts, you were undergoing a metamorphosis. You were weaving your own wings. Whether he ever returns, and in what form, becomes a secondary plotline in the grand story of your own becoming. The love you are cultivating now is not the frantic, anxious love that seeks to be completed by another. It is the deep, steady, self-possessed love that flows from a full well. It is a love that says, "My home is whole. It is full of light and life. Anyone who enters must be respectful of this space, and they must be whole in their own right. They must come to share their light, not to draw from mine." You are no longer a haunted house, waiting for a past occupant to return and give it meaning. You are a home. And your silence is no longer the sound of absence. It is the sound of peace. It is the quiet hum of a life being lived fully, on its own terms. It is the sound of you, finally, completely, and irrevocably available to yourself.